morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Chile, joined by my co-host, Benjamin, and here are your headlines for today. Actress loses libel suit over story suggesting she is a Nazi sympathizer. 2 traffic accidents occur on notorious XEMXIJA Hill in just 24 hours. A 24-year-old suspected serial vehicle arsonist arrested. A cruise ship docked in COSPICUA for 40 days is still emitting toxic fumes, and AGIUS announces his latest challenge, tackling obesity and plastic pollution. I just want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Free Hour, Malta's largest youth platform with over 25,000 local students making part of it. Ben, do you want to just take us into the first story?
Sure. So the story that everyone in Malta's local arts industry was practically talking about yesterday. Pia Zamit, a well-renowned actress and also an activist, she's actually a part of NGO Occupy Justice, yesterday lost a libel case against newspaper NOTORIOUS. Now, the libel case was over a story that the newspaper published back in 2019 about Pia Zamit wearing a Nazi costume. Now, back in 2019, NOTORIOUS had published on their front page a photo of Pia Zamit taken back in 2009 and the backstage of a performance called Allo Allo. It's a satirical performance where Zamit was wearing a Nazi costume. The title that accompanied this article, this photo, said "Controversial photo ... Pia Zamit explains." The article continued on a later page. The title continued on a later page where the full title said "Controversial photo ... Pia Zamit explains this was taken backstage." Now, many artists were pretty furious about this ruling. They thought this was threatening artists' freedom of speech, so much so that an entire hashtag was birthed from this controversy. The hashtag saying "I stand with Pia Zamit." Now, also a lot of Malta's most important artists spoke out against this ruling. We're talking about National Theatre Company Teatro Malta, the theatre company's director Shombo Hajar, artists Tom Camilleri and Malcolm Gallia. However, despite that, some people were angry at Teatro Malta's treatment of the situation, saying they should have been harsher.
Yeah, no, this is a big story, like you said, in Malta's art scene. My feed was full of it yesterday, and Pia Zamit herself took to Facebook yesterday evening, to finally speak out about this herself. She had been silent all day, and she said, quote, "I will die in defense of free speech." And she also sent a message to up-and-coming artists saying, quote, "Please, please, please, don't let today ever stop your voice." Now, I think what's important to note here is that she was wearing the costume as part of a play that's set in German occupied France during World War II. So it's a period piece, and she was dressed appropriately for that. However, because of possibly her political criticism, they've used this image, or certain parts of the media have used this image to kind of smear her. And what's interesting to note is that she's actually lost the libel case because of a recent update to the Press Act. That actually meant that if you are saying that someone was libellous against you, you had to prove it at a very high standard, and she was unable to prove this. So we'll have to see where this develops, and she has said that she's going to be speaking to her legal representatives and lawyers, so she might be appealing. We'll see how the story develops in the coming days and weeks. Moving on to the second story, and this is quite a shocking story. Maybe you saw the images yesterday, but in the space of 24 hours, there are 2 bad accidents on the notorious XEMXIJA Hill. So we're talking about the area right next to the Beach Haven complex, just as you're going up the hill, next to the water, going to Miliha. I'm sure if you've driven along this road recently, you've noticed massive crater potholes there, getting worse by the day. And in the last 24 hours, 2 incidents were caused by them. On Wednesday evening, 2 cars collided right next to the potholes. And on Thursday evening, a car overturned and crashed into 3 parked vehicles, leading to 1 woman being hospitalized. By chance, yesterday afternoon, in between the 2 accidents, Infrastructure Malta actually spoke out saying, listen, for the next 7 days, that's from the 4th to the 11th, they'll be closing the road to work on the craters, and just hours later there was another accident. Yeah,
I mean,
special help.
I hope that if once they're closing the roads, the potholes are actually filled up. I personally drive through this road at least 4 times a week, and I can say that my car is not happy every time I do. Having said that, I think this is a symptom of a much larger problem in Malta. I mean, after every time there's some heavy rainfall in the country, it seems like Malta's roads start falling to pieces. On to the next story of the day, another car-related story. A 24-year-old man, a suspected serial vehicle arsonist, has been arrested. The 24-year-old is from Zabbar, and he was arrested on suspicion that he was conspiring to burn vehicles in Malta. Now, it's interesting to note that there has been a worrying amount of car arson attacks in the past couple of years in Malta. If we look at 2018, for example, in the first 11 months of 2018, a crazy 148 cars were set on fire. Now, not all of these were intentionally set on fire. 60 of these were set on fire, so just under half. The rest were set on fire, presumably due to mechanical failures or issues of the sort. Now, the 24-year-old Zabbar man was arrested by the police's arsons unit after days and days of investigation.
No, this is a very interesting story. Lovin Malta has been covering the series of arson attacks, car burnings, oftentimes happening in the middle of the night, in the early hours, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and always, generally, authorities will only find out when it's too late, when the cars have already burnt down. What's interesting to note, in the last year, some of these arson attacks were believed to be targeted for political reasons against certain people. Let's not forget that the Valletta mayor, Alfred Zamit, found his cars on fire. He pledged to continue fighting criminality afterwards. Not only him, former PN MEP candidate and net journalist Dione Borg had also found his cars on fire. Both of them believe that it was targeted attacks. Now, we don't know if this youth from Zabbar is behind it, but the police did say that they believe he is the mastermind behind the conspiracy to burn vehicles. Now, whether he was taking money for it, whether it's part of a racketeering circle, we're not really sure, but he will be charged in the coming hours, not only with burning cars, but also with causing public fear through his actions. If you were a victim of an arson attack, contact us. We're very interested in these stories. You can contact us at hello@lovinmalta.com. Before we move on to the next story, I just want to remind you about today's sponsor, Free Hour, Malta's largest youth platform with over 25,000 local students making use of it. We're just going to cut to a quick video right now by Free Hour. Moving on to our next story, and this is quite an interesting one. I thought it was really important that we vocalize this, because people might not realize how serious this is. A cruise ship, one of the many, that's been in the Palombo shipyard for the last 40 days, has been spewing out toxic fumes non-stop, leaving residents and activists fuming about it. Azioni Wirt Artna revealed that the MSC Splendida has been docked in the dockyard since the 24th of October and has not switched its engine off since. Now this is really shocking, because the extent of pollution that a cruise ship emits is actually staggering. It's probably bigger than you think it is. Now, what's interesting about this is this comes in the same week that the government announced a 50 million euro investment to turn the Grand Harbour cleaner, to start introducing shore-to-ship power. This is supposed to be, at least the first phase is supposed to be completed by 2023, and it's supposed to be, sustainable and eco-friendly. However, it seems until we get there, we've got cruise ships literally spewing out fumes as we speak.
Yes, just to put this into perspective, a cruise ship that is moored for 8 hours spews out as much pollution as 300,000 cars driving from Chirkawa to Marsa-Xlok.
Wow.
So it's, I believe this is pretty worrying, and I believe that this is something that not enough people are aware of. We're all very aware of the harm that cars and aeroplanes do to the environment, but the harm that cruise ships pose to the environment isn't talked about enough. Speaking of the environment, we'll move on to the next and last story of the day. Local long-distance swimmer Neil AGIUS announces his latest challenge tackling obesity and plastic pollution. So Neil AGIUS, a local legend and environmental activist, has announced his latest swim in order to raise awareness against obesity and against plastic pollution. So AGIUS previously, only a few months ago, had swam from Malta to Sicily. However, this new project will see him swimming the Gozo Channel this December in the cold water of December. But that's not all. He will also be pulling his friend Michel L.J. Gallia, dressed as Father Christmas, on a paddleboard. Now, apart from that, Neil will also help his friend Michel lose 10 kilograms in the first few months of 2021.
Yeah, no, obviously Neil had made a major impact when he swam from Sicily to Malta earlier this year. And we actually did a whole documentary about it, so check it out on Lovin Malta. It's super interesting, get to know kind of what goes into these long distance swims. But this is, I think, a super awesome initiative around Christmas time, tackling two serious issues, overweight and plastic problems in Malta. And Neil has said, listen, even if you don't plan on swimming, it might be a bit cold for you guys to go to swim. He's challenging everyone to pick up 3 pieces of plastic wherever you go, be it for a walk around your house, in your neighborhood, be it in the woods or Muscat, wherever you're going, pick up 3 pieces of plastic. If we all do this, it will definitely contribute to a better society altogether. And obviously all of this comes as part of wave of changes, constant push for a better Malta. I just want to remind you that, as you can see here, we've got the very, very lovely and beautiful debut novel by Daniel Holmes, published by Lovin Malta, and it's available now at a very special price for pre-order. Head to lovindeals.com/Daniel Holmes, and you can find the deal. The offer is only valid to the 7th of December, so time is ticking. This is going to be an incredible expose of Malta's prison. I mean, obviously we had a death last week. Just this week we had the prison director, Ali, speaking quite crazily at some point on TV. So this is the first time you can really get to see what's going on behind those 4 walls in Paola. lovindeals.com, check it out. I definitely urge you to buy it. I've read parts of it. It's an incredible read. That brings us to the end of today's episode, which was sponsored by Free Hour. Both from myself and Benjamin, have a day full of love.